We are going to go ahead and prepare your paper for printing. It's always advisable to get all the clean things that you need to do done ahead of time so that once you start printing you don't have to worry about cutting paper, getting yourself organized, things like that. So in this situation what you want to do is first to what's called tear your paper. You're going to be using a different kind of paper than perhaps what you've been using in drawing classes or other types of design classes, in that the paper that you're going to be using is 100% rag paper, and it's 100% cotton, so it's much thicker and it's much more expensive. And you'll see that we have the option of using a variety of different colors of paper, ranging from buff or gray or black or even light blue or white. The paper that you'll mainly be using is what's called Stonehenge paper, which is a really thick paper that, like the paper I'm going to show you today, which is Arches 88, when printed on it doesn't buckle because the water in the water-based ink sometimes tends to buckle one's paper. So it's a really good standard paper. The problem is with Stonehenge, you don't have a way of identifying the front or back of the paper, which you would in some cases, because the papers will have what's called a watermark on the paper. And in this sheet of paper, which is a piece of Arches 88, there's a watermark that's in the lower left-hand corner that says Arches 88, which gives you an indication that what is the front and what is the back of the page. So when you go ahead and cut or tear your Stonehenge paper, you're going to sort of have to guess by how the surface looks and how the decor, which is the edge that's not manually cut when the paper is made, relates to the front of the page. So in this situation, as I said, my watermark is in the bottom left-hand corner, and I'm going to go ahead and flip my paper because you always want to tear your paper from the back. And my paper is 22 by 30 inches, and in this situation I'm going to cut it in half, so I have a 15 by 22 inch sheet of paper. When you're thinking about designing your print, it's always important to think about how your image is going to relate to your page and what kind of borders that you might want, or even if what your print is going to be called what's called a bleed print, where the edges of your printed image are printed fully to the edges. So in this case, what I've done is just using a ruler and a pencil, I've measured 15 inches, and then using a straight edge, I'm going to go ahead and lay the straight edge down and to tear my paper. You don't ever want to cut your paper using an X-Acto knife or use the paper cutter is certainly not what you want to be using because often your papers will move. And it also, once you're using something that has a cut edge, you lose the beautiful decals and the torn feeling that you'll find on the piece of paper. So in this situation now, I've torn my paper in half and I flipped it, but this is my back. And what I'm going to do now is, in your case, you'd be cutting multiple sheets of paper. But I'm going to go ahead, turn my paper over, and what I need to do next is to what's called punch my paper. And I'm doing this so that the punch registration pins that you'll be using, so that all of your prints come out the same, will easily be able to fit into small holes that I'm going to go ahead and punch shortly. In order to make the paper stiffer in those areas, sort of like reinforcements that you might use on notebook paper, what I'm going to do is to take some transparent tape and run it along the edge of my sheet of paper, and then go ahead and cut that. Now granted, when you're doing this, you're going to do this all to the same sheet of paper, all of your papers that will be in your edition at the same time, because as I said before, what you don't want to be doing is to be printing and all of a sudden have to stop, run off, cut and tear your paper and punch it and do all those other things. So it's really good to go ahead and do this ahead of time. And in fact, what you may want to do, as long as you know that this is the size that you will be printing, is to print multiple sheets so that all of a sudden, if your prints are going really well and you figure you want to go ahead and make more in your edition, that you can go ahead and add extra sheets to your paper. So it always pays to have extra papers punched ahead of time. So at this point now, I'm going to go over and show you how to punch your paper. This is the punch registration machine, and basically what it is that, similar to when you'd use a notebook paper, that by pushing this down, you're able to make holes in your paper. The most important thing when you're doing this is that all the holes are in the same place, so that all of your prints will turn out the same. So in your situation, what you'll be doing is taking your multiple sheets of paper, bringing it over here. Again, this is the area that I put the tape down on my paper to reinforce it. And what I'm going to do is line my paper up with the edge of this board here and push it back as far as it can go so that all of it will all be even. And I'm pushing it to the edge just so I know that it's all being punched in the same place. And then what I'm going to do is just go ahead and push this lever down, and you'll see that all of a sudden now I have holes in my paper. And you want to go ahead and do that to all of your sheets of paper, and you usually are never going to make an addition of 2, but just for demonstration purposes, I just have my 2 sheets here. I'm moving that back and then pressing it down. What you don't want to be doing also is to do more than 1 sheet at a time, because there's not a whole lot of space in between these little holes that are there. And here's a registration pin, so you can see that the pin easily fits into these holes, and that when we're printing, these, this is how we'll be able to place our print in the same place each time through the alignment of the different holes.